I'm shooting for upside, ladies and gentlemen, not just for this week, but for the long term, right? You go get your guy off the waiver wire. You go pick up Gus Edwards and see how it goes. I'm going to be trading for someone that has a crap ton of ceiling. I'm going to be going for Christian Watson here first off. I know you are tired of hearing me talk about Christian Watson. This is a player that I really like coming into the season that we'll talk about in just 1 second. But we have a report coming out saying, finally, oh, thank God, Christian Watson will make his season debut against the Detroit Lions this Thursday night. Now, full transparency, I'm probably not starting Christian Watson this week. Very similar to what we said with Jerry Jeudy, his first week back, Terry McLaurin, his first week back. These guys that are coming back from hamstring strains, these guys that are coming back from maybe a turf toe, you don't want to be starting them their first game in. You may see just a fewer route participation. You may see a few amount of snaps that he takes on the sideline. So I would say Christian Watson, probably not someone that I'm immediately starting on Thursday night. But going back to what we were talking about, I'm looking for that long-term upside here. And I think Christian Watson has a crap ton of it. This is a wide receiver that if you look at the second half of the season last year, the only players that had a higher points per game mark than him were Chris Godwin, Devonta Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb, and Justin Jefferson. He was a locked and loaded wide receiver one. Now, with that being said, a lot of this was fueled off of a crazy touchdown rate that's probably not sustainable. Y'all have heard me talk about this, and you've also heard me talk about the reason why I think that he will be able to overcome a drop in touchdown rate and actually see an improvement with the overall targets he has in this offense. And that's going to be if you look at his yards per route run. Yards per route run is actually going to be one of the more predictable metrics that we can use to determine an actual player's talent when given opportunity and how he'll perform if he expands that opportunity going forward. And if you look at Christian Watson, this is someone that had 2.6 yards per route run, only behind Kupp, Waddle, A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, and Tyreek Hill. Love the player, love the talent. Really, the only question mark that I had coming into the year was, okay, well, what do we get from Jordan Love? Jordan Love definitely has upside, but by no means is some guaranteed locked and loaded stud. Well, now we have a good idea through the first 3 weeks that Jordan Love is pretty damn good. I mean, you've had Aaron Jones and Christian Watson both missing time, but you've had Jordan Love leading the Packers to 2 wins. They're currently sitting at 2-1. Obviously, that doesn't mean everything, but what is pretty useful is to see the fact that Jordan Love has 7 touchdowns to 1 interception. If you include the rushing touchdown, you're looking at 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. Love also showing some of that rushing upside as well. So the Packers look like, yet again, not too many people surprised. They will be good again next season. I think Christian Watson steps in, and what we've seen from Romeo Doubs, what we've seen from Jaden Reed as of late, that's going to Christian Watson. And now our next player, I am not going to lie to you, I did not love Aaron Jones in fantasy football drafts this season. He was going right before Kenneth Walker. I was saying, oh no, give me Kenneth Walker, give me the younger guy, Aaron Jones. Maybe going to be a little more likely to see an injury based off his overall age. And on top of that, with Aaron Jones, we had the same question where you didn't really know if Jordan Love was going to be good or not. Well, now we know, like we just got done saying, that Jordan Love's pretty damn good. Aaron Jones, we get the breaking news that he will be playing Thursday night as well. And we got to see what the efficiency may look like in week 1. Of course, primarily fueled off a big play, but nonetheless, the man has 41 rushing yards, rushing touchdown, 86 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown to go alongside this. Aaron Jones has been a borderline top 12 running back for 3 straight seasons. So even if round 5, we were going to Kenneth Walker, even if we are avoiding Aaron Jones in drafts this season, I think that I am much more willing to go out there and push the button on Aaron Jones. A deal that we could possibly be looking at is if you played in a full PPR format and you wanted to send, say, Derrick Henry and pick up Aaron Jones and a wide receiver upgrade, there'll be another wide receiver at the end of this video that I want to dive into and recommend in this style of trade. I think that would be interesting. But going over to our next back, Jonathan Taylor is someone that we're going to have to bring up, ladies and gentlemen. We are quickly coming to a Jonathan Taylor return. We have week 4, then he could potentially be back week 5. Now, with this being said, with Jonathan Taylor, I do not want to rank him as if he is a top 5 running back by any means. I mean, there is an outside chance, yes, that with Taylor, this is a running back that may end up not playing this season. This is a running back that we don't know exactly what the situation is. And that has caused some fear. I mean, I've seen a lot of people in our live streams as of late going through and speculating what you're going to get from JT. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what I'm looking at is an Indianapolis Colts offense that looks to be better than we expected coming into the season. If you are looking at Anthony Richardson has been a very effective quarterback. Not only has Anthony Richardson been a great QB, but at the same time, you've seen Zach Moss perform even with Gardner Minshew in this offense as well. Zach Moss goes out there and he has 30 carries, 122 rushing yards for 4.1 yards per carry this past week, and he gets the receiving touchdown as well. Now, should the takeaway here be, oh, Zach Moss is now some great running back. Zach Moss is super talented and he is going to take this job from Jonathan. No. Ladies and gentlemen, we have had a sense of who Zach Moss is. Keep in mind, this is a running back that the Buffalo Bills gave away for legitimately pretty much nothing. And going forward, I think expectation is Zach Moss is just one of those running backs that stepped up into the perfect situation at the perfect time. But going forward, this will be Jonathan Taylor's job. This will be Jonathan Taylor's workload. And if you just go back to what we had last football season, remember, Jonathan Taylor was a running back that was the RB1 in fantasy. He was a running back that was the 101 in drafts and has that type of upside. So I'm not worried about what Zach Moss does long-term for this team. I think that it's going to be all fine at the end of the day. And ultimately, Jonathan Taylor will be the guy. Worst case scenario, if he gets traded, hell, we saw him be the number 1 overall running back in fantasy with Carson Wentz as his quarterback. He's going to produce regardless. Now, going over to our next running back, someone that we had as a buy low candidate a few weeks back, Alvin Kamara looks very appealing. I'm going to reiterate, Alvin Kamara in a full PPR format will step in and will be a top 15 to 16 running back day one. With Kamara, he has pretty much won the past few months where you have Jamal on the IR. Not only do you have Jamal on the IR, but at the same time, you are in a spot where Miller is really uninspiring. You can blame it on the hamstring strain, which has caused Miller to start slow as a rookie. You can blame it on a multitude of different factors, but nonetheless, Miller does not look like a large threat to Kamara's workload this next season. And with Alvin Kamara, you don't really want him to go out there and see every carry out of this backfield anyway. With Alvin Kamara, he is the perfect example of a running back that really the only thing that's going to matter is him going out there and him getting placed into a situation where he's going to have every single target out of the backfield, as well as every single look inside the red zone. We saw this back in 2020, where from a market share perspective, he only had 40% of the Saints' rushes on a per game basis. He was only averaging 12.5 carries per game, yet he was the running back 2 in fantasy. This was because he had 7 targets per game, because he had a touchdown and a half per game. Now, I don't expect the touchdowns to be there. I don't expect Kamara to be a top 3 RB. I think the touchdowns probably come back closer to about half a TD per game. You probably have him hovering around 5 targets per game as well. But in a full BBR format, that's going to be good for a low-end RB1 finish / a high-end RB2. Now, going over to what we have with our next back, I do want to give a shout out. I think that his underdog pick'em this week may be something that we are looking to attack with Kyron Williams. So running back that I am pretty excited about. But first off, of course, if you want to go check out any of those underdog pick'ems, you can find the link in the comment section. You can find the link in the description. Promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $500. Plus, you are going to be getting our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, you are going to be getting a Jared Goff special pick'em, more than less than half a passing yard against the Green Bay Packers on Thursday night. So please make sure you are taking advantage of that. But going over to Kyron Williams, running back that I was a little bit hesitant to go all in on, a running back that I was a little hesitant to say, yeah, for sure, this is a guy that we want to go through and we want to be buying. But if you look at what we have right now, I mean, Kyron Williams coming out of a game against Cincinnati where he played pretty much every single snap. He was disappointing if you look at his raw overall fantasy points. If you're looking at that, he only had 2 receptions, 27 receiving yards. I mean, he was only sitting here with 10 carries for 38 rushing yards. So the box score is not too hot, and you would be a little bit frustrated if you did go through and start Kyron Williams in fantasy. But ultimately, we don't really care just looking at the box score going forward. Obviously, we need to dive a little bit deeper into this. And if you're going to be looking at the snaps that we have seen from Kyron Williams since Cam Akers was dumped 2 weeks ago, according to Levitan, says 131 snaps for Williams, 4 snaps for Ronnie Rivers, 0 for Royce Freeman, and 0 for Zach Evans. Name another running back that has this workload. I can't. I have no idea, ladies and gentlemen. Ultimately, this offense will improve as well as we get Cooper Kupp back in here. Maybe the overall target volume that Akers sees out of the backfield will go down, but they'll have more sustained drives. They'll have more trips to the red zone, more scoring opportunities overall. And this is a 3-down workhorse running back when, I'll be honest, I never thought in a million years, I mean, if you're going back 12 months from now, that Cam Akers leaving would turn Kyron Williams into this. I thought Kyron Williams was a smaller running back that we really didn't have much upside with overall, but no. I mean, clearly we were proven laughably wrong. Kyron Williams looks great at this point. Now, going over to our next back, Rashad White, also another RB that's seeing every single snap, seeing every single touch in his backfield. Rashad White this past week, also pretty disappointing. Only 38 rushing yards, only 24 receiving yards. I mean, the overall offense was pretty damn bad for Tampa going up against Philadelphia. And full transparency, I do expect that this to be a pretty bad offense going forward as well. I mean, if you're going to go through and look at what we have from the updated Las Vegas sportsbooks with week 4 lines, you're still seeing that they are projecting the Bucs to be one of the worst teams in the NFL overall. I mean, right now they're going up against the New Orleans Saints, and you actually have the Saints favored by 3 points with a backup quarterback in Jameis Winston here. So this isn't really going to be an offense that turns things around, but I am incredibly impressed by the overall volume you've seen from Rashad White in this offense, where he's had 83% of the receptions from running backs in this backfield. Combine this with the fact that Chase Edmonds is injured, Rashad White is only going to improve this going forward. And he's had 71% of the rushing attempts in this backfield as well. So the volume is there. While yes, this isn't going to be a phenomenal offense, which is why I was actually fading Rashad White coming into the season. In a full BBR format, he will 100% be viable as a running back that we can go through and target if we can get him at a discount. Now, going over to our next running back, we will be looking at Josh Jacobs, ladies and gentlemen, and every Josh Jacobs owner is in a full-blown panic right now. I understand why. Jacobs has been bad. Josh Jacobs, 108 rushing yards this season. Let me actually go through and pull up the rushing leaders right now in the NFL just to see how far down Josh Jacobs is on this list. But with Jacobs, honestly, I expect this to get better, just given the fact for a couple different reasons, actually. One, the overall volume in this offense that he is seeing. If you are looking at just running backs in this backfield, Josh Jacobs currently has had 90% of the rushing attempts of running backs in Las Vegas. If we're going a little bit further down this, Josh Jacobs has had 64% of the receptions here for the Las Vegas Raiders running backs as well. So Jacobs has been one of the very rare true 3-down running backs, I mean, so far this season. And with Jacobs, we have to ask ourselves, okay, have the last 2 weeks been horrendous based off Josh Jacobs and his play himself? Or is this more so a situation where, okay, the Raiders look really bad? It's more like the Raiders look very bad here, ladies and gentlemen. And just to reiterate how bad Jacobs has been, he's 36th in the NFL in rushing yards currently. But going back to this, you've had the Raiders losing 18-23 against the Steelers, 10-38 against the Bills. They win against the Broncos, but they only score 17 points. Now, with these past 2 matchups, the Steelers and the Bills defenses are one of the best defensive units in the entire NFL. Going up against the Chargers should be a much better spot for Jacobs. I think you have still very large questions surrounding this overall offense. And I do not think Jacobs will be able to repeat what he did last year, this season, based off of how bad Las Vegas has looked so far. But ultimately, if they're able to just be slightly better in better matchups, Jacobs can be viable in fantasy, especially in a full PPR format, where Jacobs, even though he's been horrendous as a rusher, has given you 92 receiving yards and 10 receptions, 14 targets so far this season. So if he is getting 14 targets in 3 games, averaging about 5 targets a game for a full PPR format, he should be one of the higher running backs in the NFL in terms of overall receiving volume. Now, going down to a wide receiver that we were talking about previously, if you wanted to go through and send a stud running back like Derrick Henry that maybe has some red flags, if we can somehow find an Aaron Jones and Calvin Ridley owner that are panicking, right? We send Derrick Henry and maybe a wide receiver like Jahan Dotson and see if we can get back Aaron Jones and Calvin Ridley. I think that would be an interesting style trade. I mean, if you are looking at Calvin Ridley, we talked about him in our panicking video because we had a lot of people asking about us in live streams. And with Ridley, I'm not too concerned. Jacksonville's looked pretty damn bad. Trevor Lawrence has not been good, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if you're going to go through and look at Trevor Lawrence, this is a quarterback that is currently sitting at 6.2 adjusted yards per pass attempt this season. This is a significant step backwards compared to what we had with the Trevor Lawrence in 2022, where he was at 7.3 adjusted yards per pass attempt. And if you're going to rely on Calvin Ridley, the big thing you need to be betting on is this Jags offense to be better going forward, similar to what we are talking about with the Las Vegas Raiders. And if you are looking at Ridley, this is a wide receiver that's had 26 targets this season, so the volume is still there. And ultimately, I just want to take a step back and ask ourselves, do we expect Trevor Lawrence to be a bad quarterback this season? Do we think the Jacksonville Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence in his age 24 season will be worse than they were last year with the addition of Calvin Ridley and Lawrence going from 23 to 24 years old? Realistically speaking, that would not be a reasonable expectation. The reasonable expectation would be this offense actually improves. So I'm going to take that step back. I'm going to say I think we've seen these struggles from Jacksonville as of late just primarily be driven off of small sample variance, and going forward they should be better. And if you can buy low on Ridley, I think that'd be interesting. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate you. And as always, if you have not done so already, drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel. We are closing in on 200,000 subscribers. And if you want to check out any of those pick'ems in this video, you can find that link to Underdog Fantasy in the description in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $500 with new accounts. You're going to be getting our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And you're going to be getting a Jared Goff special pick'em, more than less than half a passing yard against the Packers on Thursday night. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate you and really hope we get to see you out in the live stream later tonight.